All right, motion tracking. Dun dun dun. Motion tracking is After Effects helping you place keyframes based on how it interprets your footage. A motion track is nothing more than a collection of keyframes. So whereas we have this animation here, we've got a keyframe here, keyframe there, so we've got each of these properties has 5 keyframes. A motion track looks at your footage, you tell it what to track, and it creates keyframes for that motion. Then you can apply those keyframes to something like a null object, and then that null object will follow that whatever it was in your footage based on the keyframes that After Effects interpolated. So let's walk through that. We're going to do this a couple times, and it's going to be a disaster. I'll just tell you right now. First thing we're going to do is, in our footage, we've got these 2 videos, one that's a hand and one that's a crowd. Let's rename these MP4 files. So right click and choose rename. And so the one that has the crowd, we're going to call crowd with a capital C. And then the other one, we're going to call this hand with a capital H. So you can right click on the file and choose rename, or if you select it, you can just hit the return key and it gives you the edit window so you can rename it. So we're going to start with the crowd first. In our project files, we have these little icons at the bottom here. This one is create a new composition. So you can don't do that, but you can click on it to create a new composition, just like you can hit Command N to create a new composition, or from the menu, you can hit Composition New. All of those will create a new composition. And then the other way is you could take actual footage and just drag it to that icon, and we'll create a composition based all around the size, the frame rate, and the length of that footage. So now we have a composition that matches our footage. Groovy. That's step 1. Let's save our work. All right, now we're going to add a null object to our layer stack. So, layer, new, null object. Layer, new, null object. And there it is, null 3. And I'm going to rename this layer to just null object. Go ahead and select the crowd layer. And this is a new one for us. I'm going to choose animation, track motion. So this is step 1 of motion tracking. Step 2 now is to define what we're going to track. So this person walking right here, in my determination, was the easiest one to do. This one, right? One of these people over here for sure. But if you want to, you can scrub your playhead and you can see people walking through. Yes? She starts off in frame and then leaves the frame right there. Now, because her head crosses in front of, let me zoom in on that. Her head crosses in front of this person there, it's going to lose the track. And so what I want to do is I want to stop tracking right about here. So scrub your playhead. She does come next to this guy right there. Hi, how's it going? Anyway, but right here is where I want to stop my tracking, and what I want to do is I want to cut my footage right there as well. So scrub your playhead till just before she touches his foot with her head. So we want to have a space around the top of her head there. with your playhead in that position, on your timeline, watch my screen, I'm going to adjust my work area. So I'm hovering over the end of my work area and I'm going to drag this back to that position of the playhead. And then I'm going to edit my comp length by going to Composition, Trim Comp to Work Area. And what that's going to do is it's going to change the length of our composition from this long to that long. So it just stops right there. Everyone get their comp trimmed? Your composition should now be approximately 8 seconds. Okay, and then when you play your playhead, perfect. All right, now, back at frame 1. This track point right here, it's finicky. It defines a point of contrast is how it works. I want you to zoom in, so using the magnification drop down over here, I want you to go to about 33%. Oh, that's the wrong way. I want you to go to 100%. There we go. Now this track point has 2 squares, an internal and an external. I guess, I don't even know what you'd call it. But basically the way the track mat works is you have your point of contrast inside, and then what it contrasts with is outside. Anything outside of the big square, it doesn't care about. What it does is it watches how the stuff in here, if it goes to the right, it moves your track point to the right. If it goes to the left, outside of that inner box, moves the track point to the left. Up, down, corner, wherever it goes, it tries to follow that as much as possible. It sucks at it, though. If you have, even with a solid contrast right here, it will still sometimes lose that track. But remember, all it's doing is creating keyframes. And keyframes are defining a position. Once the position's been applied to the null object, you can go back in and rework that. You can edit where that keyframe is located if it messes up. Now, if you have a really complicated track mat, not track mat, motion tracking, if it's really complicated, you can do a frame-by-frame track, which means instead of playing through the whole footage all at once and having it track, you go frame by frame and manually move this track point as you go. And that's sometimes how it has to be. When we do the one with the hand, which we may or may not get to today, but that one, that pinky finger, when I first did it, the full footage, it gets a little blurry. The hand moves real quick, and then it blurs out, and the track point just goes all over the place. And it tries to find a new point of contrast, and it just can't. So that's why I reduced the length of this footage so it's not going up into the thing and then just bouncing all over the place, which is exactly what happens. Okay, so what I need to do is I need to move this over, and real quick, see the difference between that cursor and that cursor. The one with the 4 arrowheads is the move. The one with that looks like a pointer and a box, this is a resize. And so I can resize these contrast boxes, but I want to move this. So you're going to click somewhere in between the 2 boxes, and you're going to drag it right over there so it just fits the top of her head. So this is what I was talking about where it gets finicky. If you lose your track point, like if you deselect something or select another layer or accidentally leave the composition, you can lose your track point. So what you can do is click on that layer, and right over here this tracker window opens up now that we're tracking, and you just click track motion, and then that track point will show up again. Okay, so we want to move this over to our person's head here, and then we're going to grab the outside box and we're going to make it just a little bit bigger. And what that does is it allows us to have a more safer track, because it allows for a little a little faster motion as her head moves out of that inner box there. If our buffer is really tiny, she could leave the whole track point and then this thing loses her. And so by having this thing bigger, it's going to be able to recognize where she's at. Because once that point moves, once that contrast point moves outside of this square, it's lost. After Effects won't reconnect with it. Okay, here we go. Ready? Let's zoom out to fit. So step 1 was animation, track motion. Step 2 was adjust our track point, making sure our playhead is at the 0 start. And now step 3 is to hit this play button here. Analyze forward. It's in the tracker right there. Yeah, when you hover over it, analyze forward. If you click on that, it will fast forward the video and it will track her walking through the crowd. It's kind of fun to watch actually. Does yours say motion target null object?
Yeah.
Okay, then that's good. Well, I'm not going to worry about it. Go ahead and click apply. Now it's going to ask what dimensions. Do you want the X, the Y, or the X and Y? We want the X and Y. Click OK. And then when you scrub your playhead now, you can see that red box of our null object perfectly follows the top of her head. Let's bring our playhead back to the beginning. Now when you hit J, it doesn't go to the beginning, it just goes to the previous frame. So you're gonna have to hit J a bunch of times to make it go to the first, or you can just scrub the playhead back to the beginning. Hit Command S to save. I want you to select the null object layer and hit the P key for position. And you'll see all of the keyframes for position now. When we clicked that apply button, it took all of the motion track keyframes that were inside of the motion tracker and applied them to that null object, effectively copying the keyframes over to the position of the null object. And so now deselect everything, and we're going to create a ellipse, and I'm just going to draw kind of a ellipse to cover all of her. Any color, any fill color is fine. Get rid of whatever stroke is on there though. So if you click on the stroke at the top, you can say none. And then if you hit the T while shape layer 1 is selected, that will open up opacity, and you can either reduce that to like 50%, or if you want, if mode is available, you can click that drop down for mode and you can say overlay or color, linear burn. If it's not available, do you see where my mouse is in the layer stack right here, right where layer name is? If I right click in that area, hover over columns, and then select modes, it should bring it back. Okay, so now we have our shape layer, we have our mode, so it's got a bit of a transparency to it. The last step is to pick whip the shape layer to the null object. And then play. And now you have motion tracked. Save your work, please. All right, now let's go and let's look at our hand footage. And with our hand footage, we're going to create a new keyframe from that. So we're going to click that hand footage and drag it down to the new composition icon in our project panel, and then it opens it up. And I noticed one thing that's possibly going to hang us up. I still have a tab for my crowd layer. I want you to close that tab out. And the way you do that is if you hover over the tab, there's a little X that shows up right to the left of that color box, and I want you to click that to close that out. It's just going to cause confusion. We might accidentally click on that, and then everything's going to go sideways. Step 1, new null object. Layer new null object. Select the hand layer. From the menu, we're going to choose animation, track motion. If you don't see the track point in the tracker on the right hand side, just click the track motion button and the track point should show up. Now I'm going to scrub forward, and you can see where that finger gets a little fast, a little blurry. Now I'm going to move my track point. I don't want you to do this. I want you to just watch me because I want you to see the fail, okay? That's real important. I'm going to zoom into 100%. I'm going to move my track point up here to my fingertip, and I'm going to bring this out a little bigger. Underneath and to the right, it is the same stuff, so it's going to be hard to track this, but I'm going to go ahead and give it the old college try because we're in college. So I'm going to play forward. Don't do this again. We're all just watching me, and it does it fine. It jumps, and then it completely loses the whole everything. Once we start going there, it's like, oh, there's a finger too. Well, I don't know what's going on. It's all over the place. All right, so I'm going to ditch this. I'm going to go to my hand layer. I'm going to twirl down, and I'm going to select motion trackers, and I'm just going to hit, I got to twirl that open, and I'm going to get rid of tracker 1 and tracker 2 because I don't need those. And I'm going to start over. I'm going to close out this tab right here so that I'm back in just viewing my composition. Okay, so we still have a null, we still have the hand. Close out the motion tracker, and I want to scrub forward and find, honestly, right where it gets blurred. Like this is probably going to be okay. So yeah, that's right. Good job, Louis. Yeah, let's do right at 4 seconds is where it starts to get blurry. So I'm going to pull up my work area end to 4 seconds. So this area right here is called the work area. And I'm going to grab that one. It's the thicker of the 2 gray lines above the timeline. I'm going to pull that to 4 seconds, and then I'm going to go to composition, trim comp to work area. Now again, twirl down the properties for the hand. On the hand layer, hit that little chevron there to twirl down the transform properties. If you see motion tracker, twirl that one to delete whatever motion trackers are in there, because we're going to start over on this one. Make sure your playhead's at the very beginning of the timeline.
Just delete the trackers.
Just delete the trackers, yeah. Leave the layer intact. All right, we'll do this again together. Select the hand layer, animation, track motion. I'm going to move my track point, whoops, to that fingertip there. And I'm going to pull in my outside, or increase the size of my outside box a smidge. All right, now once I have my track point on that fingertip, I'm going to hit the analyze forward, and it should do a much better job of keeping track of that fingertip. Now in your tracker, the motion target should be set to null 4. If it's not, just click this button right here that says edit target, and then you can change it to null 4 or null whatever your null object layer is called. But that is what's going to have the the keyframes applied to it when you click apply, which is what we're going to do right now, X and Y. And then just verify, scrub the playhead, and see that the null box is truly tracking on the tip of that finger. So we got our motion tracking. We did it a second time. Now let's put something here kind of cool to move with that finger. So make sure you're on the composition, the hand composition. If you want to close out this hand, the layer, the hand layer preview, go ahead and close that out because we're not going to do any more motion tracking on this one. Okay, so make sure nothing is selected in your timeline. Let's put our playhead back to the very beginning. And we're going to create a circle. So I want you to click on the circle or the ellipse tool, but don't draw it yet. We're going to make sure, first of all, that there's no stroke. So up in the little menu here, fill and stroke, we're going to click on the word stroke. Click on the word stroke. And we're going to choose none from that pop-up window. None. We need none stroke, please. Now we're going to click on the word fill. This is going to give us our fill options. Don't worry about the color. Click on the word fill. And we're going to change it from a solid fill to a radial gradient. Radial gradient. Then click OK. All right, now holding down the Shift key over here in this big empty space, we're going to create a circle. Now yours will not be pretty colored like mine, but that's okay. We're going to fix that. If you click on the fill color at the top there, we can accomplish the same thing. I wanted it in the properties though. See, mine is like doing this weird like overlay, the words going behind the thing. That's fine. All right. So when you do a gradient, you have two stops to start. You have a start color and end color, or a start color and end color, depending on how the gradient is drawn. Then you have this row at the top. This is the transparency stops. So if you want this to have a transparent edge fill, you can adjust the transparency of that color stop by selecting that guy and adjusting the transparency or the opacity of it. We're just going to leave it as 100% opaque, and that's fine. But choose a bright color for this color stop. So if you click on that color stop, choose a bright color, full saturation, and then choose this color stop, same color, but then pull the color picker down about 10%, just so it's a shade darker. That'll give us this nice kind of roundy.
That was a lot.
Okay. So select this color stop, choose a color, and then select the second color stop, choose the same color, and then you're going to pull this down about 10%. The color picker, not the hue slider, but the color, the little circle right there. You're going to bring that down about 10%. See how mine is bright pink, and then it just goes a little bit violet, changes a little bit darker. All right, and then when you're happy with that, go ahead and click OK. I chose those colors because they kind of match the color cast that's on the hand. Okay, all that's left now is to pick whip our shape layer to the null object and then play. And now that ball moves.
The Clip's personal office unit.
There's After Effects at work right there.
Track home exerbyte. Or the Ohana Shao sofa with the string green stripe pattern. Even the Rizlampa wire lamps of environmentally friendly unbleached paper. I'd flip through catalogs and wonder what kind of dining set defines me as a